I'm awake. I got me.
We're here. We're here.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us again, everybody, for another Threat Thursday Live. Today, we're going to be talking about something that caused quite a stir over the last few weeks. For those of you that aren't aware and didn't see the live stream title, obviously, we're going to start talking a little bit about Lotus Blossom and their Chrysalis Backdoor. Why does this matter for you guys? Well, all of that noise that was surrounding the whole Notepad++ chaos a little while ago, this is the kind of the primary group behind it, and a bit of a breakdown of one of the backdoors they were using as a main little piece of this whole campaign. So we're going to do a cool breakdown of it. Jared's going to walk us through some of the ways we're emulating what they did throughout their entire campaign, and then Tyler's going to talk some detections as always. So with that, Jared, let's show the people what you got.
All right. So, those of you that saw everything related to the supply chain compromise, you know that it kind of shook the community in a lot of ways because Notepad++ is kind of everywhere. Notepad++ has been, pretty omnipresent in technical fields for a very long time, and it's known and trusted. So that does also make it a target, especially at a nation state level where they have these capacities. So what happened here is the update infrastructure for Notepad++ was compromised, and it was able to, over a 6-month period or so, it was serving updates that actually bundled in this Chrysalis backdoor. And it's very interesting how they did this. So there is a system called NSIS, and it's right here on GitHub. It is the Nullsoft scriptable install system. And basically what this is you write a script, and that script will handle all of the kind of packing and compilation of your code into like an installer. And that installer is a small portable executable. And these are great for install or for update infrastructure because they don't always have to package all the dependencies that you need. They can just deliver the update. So it's a small package that kind of gets pulled in. So it's very easy to kind of blend in. So what they did from here, once they were serving this NSIS installer, it would run, and then they would set dual persistence, usually with a service and then a registry run key on the endpoint. And then they would usually use like DLL sideloading to bring in the backdoor. So what happens is this NSIS executable, I'll show you some of what comes in it here. It's this update.exe. And it creates a directory at appdata Bluetooth. It will drop this service.exe and then the log.dll. And that Bluetooth service is just a renamed legitimate binary. They've used a few. And then it has a bad load order, so it's able to load that log DLL in, and that's what kicks off the actual like next infection chain. And what that does is it will load in the DLL, and then that DLL will load in the shell code that loads the second stage, which is the Chrysalis backdoor. So the Chrysalis backdoor they were able to use for those kind of long operations and doing their archive and exfiltration. So I'll show you kind of what we did on a 2-stage scythe test for this. So we packed the NSIS installer. And basically what we'll do is we put it on disk, and when you run update.exe, everything inside of it gets unpacked to the directory appdata Bluetooth, and then it will create those registry, the registry key, and it will create the service. And then this will basically read that shell code that's brought in. So basically the chain will go legitimate binary, loads the DLL, and then that DLL brings in the shell code. And that shell code will run basically under the context that they had there. And we kind of go through a very simple enumeration phase that does lead into archive and exfil, which is kind of what they were doing, is they were using this stealth as more of a way to do exfiltration over direct impact. So you see, we'll do a lot of these unmanaged PowerShell commands, which are running through the system management automation DLL. So it's closer to what you'd see in the backdoor. And then basically what they would do is they would look through every directory. They would recurse through all the directories that might have sensitive files. And what they did is actually interacted directly with Windows APIs. So this command here you see this assembly name system IO compression file system right here. This interacts directly with the Windows API to actually do the compression instead of, for example, invoking a binary to do so. So that kind of aligns a little bit more with what they were doing and why they were able to be a little more evasive in these operations. After that, it's pretty simple. It just goes ahead and sets further persistence so that this implant will keep running as Bluetooth service, and it will just dwell on the endpoint and live until they're able to exfil. With that, I think, Tyler, you can take over for some detections.
Sweet. Thanks, Jared. Switch over real quick. So yeah, for the detection piece, we focus more on that initial execution piece, and then some of the persistence, and a little less on some of the discovery and pieces like that that Jared was talking about. So the first one up is, you know, everyone's favorite, looking for processes executing outside of standard directories, right? I feel like I say this probably every 2 weeks. Well, I'll probably say it every day. But in this one, for this particular instance, because it is loading from inside of app data, the reason it's doing that is because the Notepad++ kind of already exists, so it's common for its updates to run out of local app data or roaming app data. So in here, we're looking for event code 1, which is process creation, specifically again inside of app data roaming. We can see here it was spawned by update.exe. Again, ran from a pretty non-standard location, so it's always worth it again to look at where processes are being spawned from and their parent processes are being spawned from. And then we can see here this Bluetooth service.exe is now running from inside of roaming app data, spawned again from an executable inside of public. And then the next up is a little bit of that persistence that Jared was talking about, specifically in this instance, the run key. So how the run key works is just like it sounds. Whenever a machine boots or you log on for the first time, it's going to run whatever is set inside of that run key. So it's a great use of persistence, kind of a tried and true method. This is probably, you know, your first day of hacker school, what they teach you, right? It's like to put it inside of the run key or the run once key. But just because it's simple doesn't mean that attackers don't still use it. As you can see in this one, right pulled from the CTI is this run key persistence that the adversary utilized. So in here, you can see that the image of Bluetooth service is going to set itself to run inside of this run key value. You can also pull the details off of this and see the exact command that's going to run. But that'd be a little bit more forensically looking into what's happening, but you could look inside of this registry value, inside this current version run registry value, and see exactly what's going to run. But this is just going to kick off this Bluetooth service.exe. And then the last one is they did install this as a service as well. This service they call server power. And then you can check for that by just looking at your native Windows event logs, looking inside of the system event log for event code 7045, which is a new service has been installed. So we have two here. The first one is just the Scythe agent. This just happens to correspond with the time frame that we ran this emulation, but this bottom one down here is actually the secondary backdoor that they have for the Chrysalis Backdoor, where it then spawns Edge, and then Edge will later on kick off that Bluetooth service and then give them another form of persistence. So nothing too crazy detection-wise this week. Like I said, really just focusing more on that initial execution here of looking inside of non-standard execution directories or publicly or universally writable directories adversaries can write to without needing to have elevated permissions or anything like that. You know, the run key to make sure that they continue to get a bit of persistence every time that machine runs. And then the service installation, again, just another form of persistence to make sure that even if you catch some of the other things from the attacker side, ideally you'll miss one of them, and then they'll have another form to get a shell back to them.
From that threat perspective, this is a really interesting use case. I mean, it's kind of highlighting, I think I said it a while back, that it's looking like 2026 is going to be the year of supply chain compromises. So a whole lot going on right now. But from an adversarial perspective, everything they've done throughout kind of this whole campaign and everything that happened was nothing groundbreaking. There's nothing truly like super unique or crazy or anything going on here. It's just normal behaviors done well.
Yeah, it's very lean.
Yeah, some of the interesting highlights is that just something like the .NET calls, right? Like using the API calls as opposed to compress archive or another application like WinRAR or 7-zip, which you might already have some kind of simple, easy win detections around. I know a lot of your EDRs here as of late do, but doing something like calling system IO compression, there's a pretty good likelihood that's going to fly under the radar, right? So all in all, it makes this one for an interesting use case, I guess, around these different behaviors and TTPs. There's more than one way to do everything, right? And this kind of shows that off well.
Yeah,
the one I really like things very well. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say the one that I really liked about this, when Jared was making this test and talking to us about it, is that NSIS. I thought that was just a super neat delivery method. I did not know anything about it beforehand. I'm not sure if anybody here is really familiar with it, but I didn't know anything about it. And just the fact that it's a publicly accessible, it's designed to run a small little binary script, then actually perform updates or things like that, and you could just attach it to another application essentially and have it run and do whatever it is that you want to do. I thought that was pretty novel and something that I definitely not heard of before. Definitely something we'll be taking more of a look at, trying to come up with some more detections and pieces like that in the future.
I could see it being something really hard to chase down too, because this isn't anything that necessarily looks bad. Like Jared said earlier, Notepad++ is everywhere. And the kind of double-edged sword to that is it's a free tool, so it's usually not something everyone's actively tracking. So when everyone's now all of a sudden trying to dive into incident response mode and figure out who has it, this is just a huge headache.
Yep. And we have another pattern here is that, this is, of the past few Threat Thursdays we've done, how many of them have been a DLL sideload from a legitimate binary? That's still not being, reliably detected, reliably caught, whether it be based off of, the application being whitelisted, for example. There's things built into Windows that are vulnerable to this as well. But it's something that we're seeing all of the time is the adversaries are writing a DLL, and then they're just abusing how the programs, will load those DLLs in. It's very simple to do. And it's something that it seems like is less reliably caught than people tend to think.
Yep, and their naming schemas are great for this too. Is like at first glance, Bluetooth service, you're going to kind of gloss over it, right? Because every machine and laptop vendor has their own proprietary drivers for a million different things. So something as generic as just Bluetooth service, you're like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, supposed to. You have like Dell, Windows, Logitech all have their own Bluetooth service.exe running out of all these different places that are all kind of just like fighting against each other. Yeah, it's a great way to just kind of blend in, especially if it's not quite a 0 day but an end day. New things. Sometimes just naming something the right thing and putting it in the right place is enough to kind of get you by.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, awesome. Any last parting shots on this one? I think this will probably be the first Threat Thursday live we make it in under our window.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, cool. Well, with that, we will catch you guys next time. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining, everybody.
See you.
Bye.